What's going on? What are the 12 houses? I'm so glad you asked. I've been dying for you to ask. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to make this video. So let's talk about it. Astrology is a lifelong study. So take your time ingesting this information, understanding yourself, and applying it to your life, okay? Simply put, the 12 houses are perspectives of the sky. Repeat that back. Say that out loud. The 12 houses are perspectives of the sky. Let's talk about what the 12 houses are not. The houses are not the signs. I've been getting this question a lot. What are they? And I've been getting a lot of confusion from people. We have 12 zodiac signs, but we also have 12 houses, and they are not the same. They are quite different. So, my intention is to show you how to find them. And also, I know I'll get the question, what software am I using? This is SolarFire. You don't have to pay for SolarFire. You can easily go on astro.com, astrocharts.com, Cafe Astrology. You can download Astro Matrix. Just find your circle chart. The circle chart is super imperative. This is a commonly known fact, but it's very overlooked when it comes to astrology. Gang, we live on Earth, okay? It's very cool to know what the sun and the moon and Mercury and Pluto are doing, but you live on Earth. And what does Earth do? Earth flies through space at incomprehensible speeds. That's right. Exactly. Exactly right. But also, the Earth is going to rotate once a day, a full rotation. And it's the rotation of the Earth that actually creates the day and the night. It's not that the sun and moon are like jumping up and down every day. No, we're spinning, we are rotating. And that's why we have different perspectives of the sky relative to certain locations. Okay. And I'm going to show you the houses and then we'll start explaining them and what they mean. Okay. The thing that you need to understand about the chart and astrology is what are you looking at, even? What you're actually looking at is a two-dimensional diagram of the 3D celestial sphere at the moment of your birth, or any moment, in time and space. So, my point is this: while you're looking at a circle, it's much better to think about this like a globe or a beach ball or something round. And if I broke your flat earth theory, my bad, fam. But you got to get with the program, man. This earth is certainly round and it certainly spins. So, just like a globe, you can cut this chart up into hemispheres or equal parts, either going horizontally with the upper and the lower hemisphere or vertically with the left and the right hemisphere. Directionality is really important. And what did we say the houses were? That's right, perspectives of the sky. You ever heard the phrase circle of life? Oh, yeah, this is the circle of life. You're looking right at it, man. Who wishes life came with a map? I know I do. So the beautiful thing is it does. And that's what your birth chart is. We're going a little bit deeper than the houses today, but I'm going to jump right in just a sec. What your birth chart literally is showing you is the time and space you jumped in the body, took your first breath in the physical world. But when you look past the earth and the planets and the geometry and the angles, you're going to see when the celestial bodies were in direct harmony with your individual purpose as a soul. It's really that deep. Okay. So this is a reality map, guys. That's what you need to understand first and foremost. So the houses are perspectives of the sky, and you can actually see that there's 12 houses and 12 signs. And look closely into this chart. I'm going to draw them out for you. This one right here, that says number one. This one right here says number two. This one right here says number three. This one right here says number four, and so on and so forth. All right, gang. That's the beautiful thing to see is that we go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Everybody has 12 houses in the chart. And I see this confusion a lot where people pull their chart off of CoStar or they're looking at the table view, not the circle. And they're like, I don't have the 10th house. How do you not have the 10th house? It's in everybody's chart. Did the universe just destroy the vertical axis of the reality you live in when you were born? I don't think so. Absolutely not. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, y'all, but like this been grinding my gears a little bit, and hopefully I don't take it out on y'all because you here want to learn, and that's beautiful. But you got to look at what you're looking at, man. Truly, the if you don't have the circle chart, you didn't start. Okay, and this also brings up the concept of timing. How long does it take for the Earth to rotate one full rotation? 1 day. That's right, 24 hours. And do the math. If there's 12 houses, all right, in 24 hours, that means the houses, or I should say the sign in the house, it will shift every 2 hours. So it's a good time to add that there are 12 signs and 12 houses. You guys are getting a bonus with this one because this was really just about the houses, but I guess there's a decent amount of context that needs to be covered to answer this question. What's the difference between the 12 signs and the 12 houses? I'm glad you asked. The 12 signs are based on the ecliptic. Okay, gang. And X marks the spot right here. So, again, this is a map of the celestial sphere. So, the very center of the wheel is that specific location that you plugged in to get the chart. You only need three things to get the chart, gang. You need a date, you need a time, and you need a location. All right. So, the location is referenced right in the middle of the wheel. Okay. And this line you can draw right through the center. This is the horizon line. So everything above that vertical, or I should say horizontal line, is going to show the sky above the ground. Everything below that line is going to show the sky beneath the ground. So the funny thing is, guys, you will never see the first six houses unless you were to take a trip off of Earth in your favorite rocket ship and look below, you know? And then you'd have a whole different form of astrology at that point because this is Earth based. Okay. So, perspectives of the sky. That's what the 12 houses are. We'll talk about what they mean in just a sec. Let's talk about what the signs are really quick. Every year, as the earth goes around the sun, let's say this glowing microphone was the sun and my hand is the earth. Every year, as we go around the sun, the ecliptic will touch 12 constellations. What is the ecliptic? If you were to stare right through the sun, don't do it, and draw a line from earth through the sun out to the other side, that's what the ecliptic is. That's what this line is that I'm drawing in the chart. So the zodiac belt is really the wheel of the year every year as we go around the sun. Okay. That line will touch 12 different patterns. It'll touch Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. And you can see it written in the chart at the very edges, guys. Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. And also inside the wheel where you see your planets, you can also see the same glyph and it'll show what zodiac sign the planet is transiting in front of. And today is October 11th, right? So that means the sun is in tropical Libra. Oh, yes, indeed. So the zodiac signs, these are different archetypes, energies. To keep it straight up, guys, the whole zodiac belt is the totality of consciousness we experience on Earth. All right. But what the houses are shows the different perspectives of life, not just the sky, the circle of life. We all experience life in universal archetypes. Like my name's Mark, I'm 26. I'm getting jacked. I'm an astrologer. I'm the sexiest man in the world. I'm a Leo, by the way, if you couldn't guess. But I'm saying this to illustrate, your name might be John or Tammy or Paula, and you might live in South Africa, and maybe you're a doctor or you're a babysitter, or maybe you wash windows or something. It's we all have different lives. That's my point. That's why I'm saying this. But we all have universal themes of life, truly, and that's what the circle of life is. The zodiac is going to reflect the totality of consciousness within Earth, from birth to disillusion, Aries through Pisces, natural archetypes, energies we all express, and the houses also are energies we all express too, or all experience. So by understanding which signs fall in which houses and what planets are there, you actually get to see how consciousness is set up for an individual. So let's talk about the 12 houses actually, because I really want to illustrate this point. That's the meaning of this video. And it's been a little bit of preface, but it's all meaningful information. What are the 12 areas of life? Understand first and foremost that that's the intention of the house system. Beyond showing perspectives of the sky, up, down, east, and west in the chart, you're going to be able to see symbolically the different arenas of life or experiences that we get to have. And I guess the question becomes this. Let's talk about the first house now. What's the first thing everybody does in life? I mean, and your answer is probably correct. as good as mine, but I would say existing, being. There are natural parallels between the signs and the houses, gang, but I want to restate that Aries is the first sign, it's not the first house. You may be a lucky duck and have Aries in the first house and live life through that consciousness, but you'll see that there are some parallels. This is the I am energy, it's the fire energy, the spark of life, existence itself, raw primal awareness, where we operate instinctively. The cusp of the first house is also called the ascendant in many house division methods. And that's a story for another video, how we can do different house division. But just stick with me, man. Let's try to keep it simple today. Simplified astrology. The first house reflects existence itself, your I am, how your inner core expresses itself. This also says a lot about the body that you jumped into. So your appearance, your constitution of your life force, your character will be shaped and molded by the energy in the first house. The sign on the cusp of the first house, any planets you have within the first house, any aspects to your first house, these will definitely reflect your characterology, your identity, and how you experience life. Okay. So that's the I am. Let's talk about the second house. Because everybody is being. That's what we mean about the first. The second house is next. And this talks about possessions. What do you have? What do you need? So the physical body also talks about the second house. I should say vice versa. The second house can reflect the things that we have to have in order to sustain our life. So this would talk about food, shelter, water, sleep. Your physical resources are in the second house. And in the modern day, I mean, like that's primordial. Everybody needs to eat and sleep, and even the animals and plants do that. But think about it today in 2024. You got to have money to pay your bills, right? That's the exchange, that's the medium. So the second house is our money. It's the things we value. And we only value things because they meet a certain need for us, right? So this is also your value system. It's the things that you possess, the things that you own. All right. The second house, similar to the sign of Taurus, has a very earth energy. It's our physical needs, our resources. The second house could also be your internal resources, the value that you place on yourself, the places that you can plant seeds in the universe, the things that might be worth something. This could talk about your stuff, but it could also be, intellectual property, your skills on some level too. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But let's talk about the third house. Because first house is I am, second house is I have. The third house is I think. This is perspective, perception. Everybody is able to see the world. Well, I should digress. Some people are blind, but they still take in information through other senses. And this is what the third house really reflects, is sensory perception. Our experience of reality, phenomenal reality, how we interpret it. The third house is your mind, is how you think. It's your immediate environment. It's the surroundings. This shows where we are. Like I'm kicking at the house. I'm in my neighborhood. Here I am living my life. How beautiful. The third house will also talk about things that are local, familiar. So, siblings have long been associated with the third house. Cousins, extended family. Let's talk about the fourth house. The fourth house talks about our emotional life, what's going on inside of us. And this is a naturally Cancer archetype. And I also want to say, just to kind of plant a seed, planetary rulership is a more intermediate concept in astrology, where every sign of the zodiac will have a specific planet that is most congruent with it, and it rules the subsequent house. Cancer is the fourth sign. The moon rules Cancer. So the moon will also naturally rule the fourth house. And I'm going to break somebody's mind today. In this local chart, Leo is on the cusp of the fourth house. What planet rules Leo? You may know. If you don't know, it's the sun. So in this local chart, assume this was somebody's birth chart. We would know that the fourth house deals with emotions. It deals with, what's going on inside of us, our personal life, therefore, our family life, our home, where we set our roots down. This could talk about your mom and your dad, how you were nurtured, what makes you comfortable. But you could also look to where the moon is and to where the sun is to get more understanding of how does this person's fourth house work? What makes them comfortable? What's their emotional life like? Okay. And I could really paint examples, but I think we're going a little bit too deep. So just planting a seed for somebody. There's a lot of moving parts to astrology. And the benefit that you get by knowing your chart is reading God's clock, the universe's clock, however you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you call it, but you understand what I'm saying. Okay. So the fourth house is things that are close to home, near and dear to your heart. This could be family members, but it could also be close friends. Anything you care about, really, is the fourth house. That's the moon's energy, right? And let's talk about the fifth house. Naturally, a Leo energy, but this is not about I feel. That's the fourth house. This is about I will. I create. All right. The fifth house is every creative endeavor that you create, that you partake in. And we are creators, Fire family. Remember that. So we create all types of stuff. Did you know action is a form of creativity? Anytime you express yourself. When we think of the word create, we often think about painting a picture or dancing or singing or making a song or a poem. But no, action is creation. Identity is creation too. And that's very important to think about. And this might be why you can see that the sun naturally rules Leo and corresponds to the fifth house. All right. So when you look at the planetary ruler of your fifth house or any planets in the fifth house, they'll naturally show you how you create, how you identify. Children are a fifth house thing. Should you ever have kids, they are in your fifth house because it's something that comes from you. And you could also think about anything you create is a child. I wrote a book. My book is my child. It takes on a life of its own. It exists, exciting stuff. So the fifth house is about will, our action, our identity, creative self-actualization. The sixth house, let's talk about the sixth house. And this is the funny thing. The sixth house is the final house beneath the horizon. And that is significant. That's why I'm saying it. The sixth house is about service. If you want the mantra, I serve. I serve. The sixth house deals with our life, what we do every day, our schedule, the way we allocate and use our time. And I'm going to use this moment to illustrate that the first six houses beneath the horizon, these are very personal, self-referential. The bottom part of anybody's chart shows how the hidden, introverted part of the self expresses itself. All right. So the sixth house is all about personal refinement, where we place our focus, where we act on a daily basis. This is our routine. Our skill sets get developed through our daily actions and focus. This talks about learning and improvement. And I'm going to say it again, service. What do we provide within this world? The sixth house is an earth house, just like the second house. All right. And this will say a lot about our physical needs, the material plane of existence. The first thing you actually have to serve is your body. It's worth noting. So then you'll see the sixth house has a long signification of health, right? Planets in the sixth house, transits to the sixth house, aspects to the sixth house, progressions to the sixth house. We're going kind of deep. All these things can affect our health, okay? Let's talk about the seventh house. And this is a beautiful thing because this is where polarity kicks in. And I'm going to give you guys a secret. If you get this secret, leave me a fire emoji in the chat so I know that you're getting it. Opposites are identical, just varying in degree. Opposites are identical, just varying in degree. If you can understand this, I promise you're going to learn astrology faster than most people, at least 5 times faster, because every opposite sign or house has parallels. So I'm going to speed this up for you, gang, and just let you know the first house is opposite the seventh house, and they're going to be the same thing on opposite sides. Diametric measures contain the same quality on each end. What do I mean by that? Think about left and right, up and down, hot and cold, same exact energy. So if the first house is about experiencing your life personally, I am, The seventh house, it would stand to reason, is what we are. Mind is blown. Light bulb should be going off at this point, gang. So the seventh house in our chart, this shows where we meet the world, how we create relationships, the quality of relationships that we form, our relationship with the world, even. Relationship is super important, and you can only understand who you are in relationship to other people. Mind blown, I know. And your relationship to others in the world, this sets the stage for your higher ideals within life, too. So that's very important to note as well. The seventh house is about partnership. You'll hear it referred to marriage as well, and that's correct. But the key with this one is it's equal. You see somebody eye to eye, you ignore them at your peril. If it was your friends, if it was your lover, if it was your enemy, seventh house is relationship. All right. And that's really important. The eighth house, this is a freaky deaky house, y'all. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. The eighth house is very mysterious, very deep. And it makes interesting angles to the first. And that's kind of why it's a challenging house to understand. So the first thing you need to do is look into the second and then jump in through that polarity. It'll help you understand. The second house is your resources. I have. So it stands to reason the eighth house is what we have. All right. This is the house of shared resources. And I could give you a lot of examples. Let's say you were married or you had a roommate, for example, and you both cohabitate in the same house. Let's say you both have your name on the lease. This is my house, but it's also your house. We share this resource, right? Let's say you live in a society, right? I think it stands to reason a lot of us would do that. So, you drive on these roads, you go to certain schools, you might go in the public, but how are you entitled to these? You pay your taxes, right? You have a relationship to the government in the seventh house, don't you? Light bulbs going off, right? This house is very interesting. And you'll see that, if you've ever tried to study the 12 houses, you'll see people give these houses, blanket titles. And this is the house of sex and death and taxes and rebirth. And it's like, what does that even mean? What? you know, Shared resources. Okay. And if the second house reflects life, our physical needs, the eighth house is a very spiritual house. It's a water element house. It's emotional, it's vibratory. This is about recycling physical resources back to the spiritual. The eighth house can reflect our debts, the things that we owe. Some would call this the house of karmic debt. Planetary rulership is very important, guys, because this is the house that Pluto rules in the chart. And you'll have Pluto likely in a different house. It's more likely to have Pluto outside of the eighth than it is to have it. Technically, 1/12 of everybody has Pluto in the eighth house, right? If you really do the math. So you're more likely to have Pluto out of the eighth than you are to have it in the eighth, even though it rules the eighth. And also understand Pluto naturally rules Scorpio. Hope I'm bending some minds today. So the thing is, the house that you find Scorpio in is going to be ruled by Pluto. Okay. And where is Scorpio in this chart? It's on the seventh house, right? It's on the cusp of the seventh house. There's technically some Scorpio in the sixth, but as far as house rulership, you look at the sign that's on the cusp of the house. Okay. Unless it's whole sign houses, but that's another video. So Pluto in this chart would rule the seventh house, even though it's in the ninth house. There's Pluto right there in the ninth house. If you're not familiar, that's what it looks like. All right. But at the same time, Pluto naturally overlays the eighth house. So, for instance, guys, if Pluto is a very deep, I think I'm going a little too deep, man. I mean, but that is Pluto. This person would have karmic debts to pay in their relationships in their life. They would also have karmic debts to pay, things to learn, lessons to evolve through in their ninth house. Let's talk about the ninth house too before I even get there. So the eighth house is the house of death and regeneration, taxes. You may even see inheritance come through the eighth house. When we experience certain transits to the eighth house or, planets going through the eighth house, or, the ruler being transited certain times in our life, we might gain inheritance through the death and regeneration of somebody else's life. So that's very important as well. Shared resources, desires as well. Let's talk about it in polarity. If the second house is what you need, the eighth house would be what you desire. And that's the only reason you're going to merge resources with somebody else, because it meets some sort of need that we have to link ourselves with that. The eighth house represents power as well, our energy, all right, our ability to regenerate ourselves. It's very important. It is the house of sex, the binding and merging of two energies. And you'll notice that the fifth house also is about sex as well. But this is more about casual encounters. The eighth is more procreative. The fifth house talks about fun, excitement, things we do for entertainment, things we want to create because it brings us joy. So we should be seeing at this point in the first eight houses that everything you experience within your life will be put into one of the eight houses, or the 12 houses, I should say. Like, what about your car? Let's use that as an example. A car is something you own, probably. If you have a loan, it's also in the eighth house, that debt you took out to get onto it. The car is also part of your third house, because this helps you travel and get around, right? And let's say that you identify with your stuff or your possessions, or you use them to, validate your ego. You could even see the first house reflected into your car. Like, the quality of your first house may even reflect the type of car that you have, how you emotionally connect to it, the fourth house, the ways you decorate it, the fifth house, the way you drive it, the sixth house, right? You're one of these people that names your car. I know I did. You name your car, you have a relationship with your car now. 100%. Okay. Now let's kick into polarity again. Let's go into the ninth house. The third house is, again, the house of familiar places and faces, how we think. All right. The highest manifestation of I think is we think. This revolves around understanding, schools of thought, the consensus ideas. The ninth house could talk about religion, philosophies, higher ideals, morality, law, legal structure, right? Let's think about it in the last three houses. This is what we are. This is what we have. And now, what do we think we need to do about what we have? What's the best way to deal with our shared resources? Well, we gotta create laws. We gotta create ideas on how this works. The ninth house is the house of spirituality. And think about it this way, gang. We're above the horizon now. So this is you looking up. This is you looking to higher power. Doesn't matter what you call it, it's there regardless. You know, you could call this the house of existential crisis, even if you wanted. This is a very existential crisis house, or existential house, I should say. It's very much about the nature of your beliefs, your conscious beliefs, what you think about the world, your worldview, your perception, your belief. Okay. Cosmology is a ninth house thing. And think about it this way, too, gang. If the third house is familiar to you, it's local, the ninth house also reflects travel. Anytime you get out of your immediate environment and go see something different, that's the ninth house. And this could be a physical travel or a mental travel. So I want to be very clear to you guys listening to this video. If this is new information to you, what you are having is a ninth house experience right now. Light bulbs. Okay. Very cool. Mind is being stretched. The expanded mind can't shrink. All right. So that's very cool. Let's talk about the 10th house. The fourth house is our private life. This is who we are at home and our family behind closed doors. So it stands to reason the 10th house is our public life. This deals with our reputation, how we are seen by society. This is our status. What is your status? Are you the president? Are you a therapist? You a fry cook? You a bum on the street? Doesn't matter. That's your status. Are you single? Are you married? Divorced? Widowed? Status. All right. But the 10th house also deals with goals. It's the last earth house, by the way. Very tangible, very solid. So your career is a 10th house thing. How you get into the world, how you interact with society. This would also stand to reason the 10th house reflects your legacy. In most house division, the cusp of the 10th house is also called the midheaven. And that's a very important point in the chart. And what the midheaven actually is the highest altitude in the chart. Okay. And that's where you perceive limits, where you feel like your calling is. So the 10th house is like your main quest, it's your goals on a more broad lens, what you feel like your life is about, even your legacy, what you leave behind. But also on a more micro scale, the 10th house is everything you use. It's all your goals, it's your planning. Even the moment before you roll out of bed where you think about, okay, I'm going to brush my teeth, I'm going to pray. I got to go to work in like 5 minutes. Oh my God. And after I go to work, I got to this and that. I got to pick up the kids and blah, blah. You're organizing. That's 10th house energy. It's Capricorn's energy, naturally. Cardinal Earth. How do you create cardinal out of resources? Earth. If you guys have, I know I'm saying a lot in this video, so leave your questions in the comments and we can get in the next episode of Venus Day Q&A. So the 10th house is the things that you use. All right. It's your plans, it's your goals, it's your reputation, it's your status, who you are in the public. Okay. Let's talk about the 11th house now. Let's review. The 5th house is about personal expression, your creative self actualization. So the 11th house is about collective creation, right? It's about collaboration. This is about groups, associates, your friends, any group of people you include yourself into. Humanity is an 11th house phenomenon. This is Aquarius energy naturally, even though you're more likely to have Aquarius outside the 11th house than you are to have it in the 11th house. Because again, the houses and the signs are not the same thing. Let's put it this way, guys. The houses are static. They don't move. They do not move. The first house will always be on the eastern horizon. The 7th house will always be on the western horizon. Always. It will never not be there. These are perspectives of the sky, once again. But at the same time, the earth is rotating. So if we look past the horizon, you'll see a constellation touching that horizon. And every 2 hours, it's going to change because we take 24 hours to rotate once, and there's 12 different signs in the zodiac. Are you guys tracking what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So the 11th house deals with what we will do, not just what I will do, not just the 5th. What are we doing? The 11th house is about hopes and wishes, the future. It's worth saying this to plant a seed. Some people are going to have this click in today. Some it'll click in soon, but Saturn rules the 10th in the 11th house. Saturn has 2 homes. Technically, Uranus also rules the 11th house, but we didn't always have telescopes to see the outer planets like Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. So the ancient astrologers had more signs than celestial bodies. And that's important to note, that you'll see certain planets ruling over multiple houses, like Mars ruling the 1st house and the 8th house. We didn't always know about Pluto, right? Mercury rules the 3rd house and the 6th house. Venus rules the 2nd house and the 7th house. The moon rules the 4th house. Sun rules the 5th house. And then, of course, Saturn rules the 10th and the 11th, and that's going to leave Jupiter to rule the 9th and the 12th. And if you think about that, like jot that down, I promise it'll help you understand the nature of the houses. I promise. So the 11th house, to summarize what we will do, this reflects our associates, our groups, our friends, our hopes for the future, our wishes, the great unknown. Saturn energy. Saturn deals with reality, FYI. So the 10th house, it's an earth house. It deals with how we see the world, what's physical, solid, what's in society. But the 11th house is air. It's the Aquarius energy. So this is a higher vibration of Saturn's reality, what we can build out of the things, what's next, so to speak. That's the 11th house. The 12th house is almost as mysterious as the 8th house. I think it's a little more mysterious personally. The 6th house deals with I serve. All right. So the 12th house is what do we serve? You could also say, what do you believe? The 12th house is I believe. And I'll repeat the mantras in a second just so we can see, how these play out for a human beyond connections with others. The 12th house is everything we haven't talked about already, guys. And we've covered a lot from what it means to be yourself and experience life, to have a body and needs, to a mind and perception and an environment, a home, comfort, family, identity, willpower, create fun, expression, focus, skills, jobs, service, relationships, ideals, desires, things outside of our control, where we merge our resources, death and inheritance, taxes, belief systems, cosmology, reality, goals, society, career, friends, associates, groups, worldview, future. There's almost nothing left, dude. But let me get you up to speed. The 12th house is the house of dreams. The 12th house is very deep and ephemeral. This is the house of returning back to spirit. And belief filters our reality. What we believe becomes our reality. It's real real to you. All right. So the 12th house is not just the nature of your belief, it's your connection with divinity. It's your connection with source. And we all call this different things. Some people believe in God, some people don't believe in God, doesn't matter. Their belief filters their reality. What you believe is what you start to perceive, right? So the 12th house is also the house of self-undoing. And that sounds very negative. It's not. It's not good or bad, truly. How do we get out of the self? There's a lot of ways to do it. When you spend time by yourself, ironically, you get out of yourself because you have this unfiltered, unbridled connection with the universe. Meditation is a way to transcend the self. Escapism is a way to transcend the self. When we distract ourselves, when we numb or suppress or indulge in, toxins or substance, that's a 12th house thing as well. When we pray, that's a 12th house thing as well. When we serve the world, that's a 12th house thing as well. Absolutely. The 12th house could also be called the house of sacrifice. This is a very deep thing. The 12th house is a reflection of your unconscious as well. And that's crazy. Everything you're not conscious of is in the 12th house. I'm telling you, everything is in the 12 houses. This is the circle of life. Generally speaking, you're going to be conscious of all 12, but the 12th is the stuff beyond your perception as well. Same thing with the 8th house on some level. I mean, and it stands to reason if the 6th house and the 3rd house, which are ruled by Mercury, and Mercury governs perception, if we choose to be aware of certain things, by virtue of opportunity cost, you can't be aware of everything else. You're watching this video right now. You guys know there's more content posted on the internet every day than you would have time to consume in your lifetime. For real. So by virtue of being aware of this video, what else are you not aware of because you chose to spend attention on this? That's the 12th house. That's the 8th house. These are the deep water houses. Okay. So I know this was a pretty long video. Let's re-summarize this, man. The first house is I am. The second house is I have. The third house is I think. The fourth house is I feel. The fifth house is I will. The sixth house is I serve. The seventh house is I relate. The eighth house is I desire. The ninth house is I understand. The 10th house is I use. The 11th house is I hope. And the 12th house is I believe. That's the circle of life. That's the universal archetypes of the human experience. We all experience life in this way, shape, and form. But everybody will be born at a specific time, a specific date, a specific location. The planets are going to move every single day relative to our transit around the sun. So nobody has the same natal chart unless you were born at the exact moment as your twin, same exact location. You don't have the same natal chart, right? And this is the moment that I let you know you really are a special snowflake, for real. And beyond having a psychological mirror to understand yourself, this is the reflection of the meaning of your life. This is how consciousness is set up for a specific individual. The 12 houses are how you perceive life. the different arenas of life. And we got to live it to the fullest, Fire Family. I love you. I hope you got something from this video. If you have questions, definitely leave in the comments. And I'll see you guys pretty soon with the next installment of Venus Day Q&A. Peace. Mr. Meyer with the fire, here to take the collective vibration higher. Love your soul.